Hello, my peeps. This Algebra Nation video will cover workbook page 41, problem number 3.
This is crazy. I want to run away because I see fractions, I don't like fractions, and I see a bunch of words, and I don't like dealing with word problems. But once we start reading this thing, I bet it's not going to be so bad. So let's see what it says. Tarzan and Jane decide to calculate the number of gorillas left in the part of the jungle where they live. Okay. To calculate this value, they're using the given equation below, where x is your number of gorillas. And we've got a nice equation. What is the value of x, the number of gorillas in their part of the jungle? Well, all we're being asked to do here is solve for x, the number of gorillas. Well, where is x? X is in this equation. Do we care about any other piece of this problem? Do we care that we're looking for gorillas? No. Do we care that we're doing the Tarzan and Jane? No. All we care about is solving for x using this equation. So I'm going to rewrite this equation and work off of that. So we have 3x over 4 plus 5 over 4 equals 15 over 3. Now, when you are given a question this and you're dealing with fractions, I bet if you look around the room, there's people solving this multiple different ways, and that's okay. There are different ways to solve a problem like this. I'm just going to do one of them. If the way that I solve it is not the same as what you solve, I want you to post on the wall. I want to see what you guys did. Let me know. I'll give you some karma points, all right? So let's see what happens here. We've got a 3x over 4 plus 5 over 4 equals 15 over 3. Okay. What's happening here? Well, we've got a term with an x and a term with just numbers. And then we have our equal sign, and we have a term with just numbers. I want to get my terms with x, with the variable, on the left side of the equation, and my numbers on the right side. So what am I going to do? Well, let's get rid of this number. Let's get this number so we only have numbers on the right. How do I get rid of this plus 5 over 4? What is the inverse of addition? Subtraction. So since I have a plus 5 over 4, I need to subtract 5 over 4. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do on the other. So let's see what that gives us. We have a plus 5 over 4 minus 5 over 4. Those cancel out. And we're left with 3x over 4 on the left side of our equation. Well, that's equal to what? 15 thirds minus 5 over 4. 15 thirds minus 5 over 4. 15 thirds minus 5 over 4. Let's see how we can do this. First off, when I look at 15 thirds, 15 divided by 3, does 3 go into 15? Yeah, 15 divided by 3 is 5. So let's rewrite it like that. 5 minus 5 over 4. Well, 5 is the same thing as saying 5 over 1, right? Anything divided by 1 is just itself. So 15 over 3 is the same thing as saying 5 over 1. They both mean 5. Just a different way to write it. 15 divided by 3 is equal to 5. 5 divided by 1 is equal to 5. Alright, so I think maybe I've simplified this a little bit, made this a little bit easier for us. Let's see what our next step is. Well, we're trying to subtract fractions. Remember that whenever we're trying to subtract or add fractions, we need to have a common denominator, meaning the number in the bottom of our fraction has to be the same. So how can I make this 1 and the 4 the same number? Well, what number do both of them go into? 4, right? 4 is a common denominator. It's the least common denominator here. So how can I make this 1 a 4? How can I do that? Well, multiplying. I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 4. See what I'm doing here? If I multiply by 4 over 4, I'm taking 4 over 4 times 5 over 1. You guys remember that any number over itself is just 1. So multiplying by 4 over 4 is really just multiplying by 1. It's keeping it the same number. All we're doing is changing what's on the bottom. So the way that we do that is by adjusting. We're multiplying the top by 4 and the bottom by 4. So what do I do when I multiply fractions? I multiply my tops. What's 4 times 5? 20. And then I multiply my bottoms. What's 4 times 1? 4. Check it out, guys. 15 over 3, we said that's equal to 5. 5 over 1, that's equal to 5. We multiply the top and bottom by 4. 20 divided by 4, that's equal to 5. All of these are just different ways of saying 5. We just want to get it the way so that it has the same denominator as what we're trying to subtract from it. All right, right, so now that we have that, let's bring down this 3x minus 3x over 4. Now that we have the same denominator here,
Now that we have the same denominator, let's take a brain break. Do we have some highlights from a Gators game? Oh, look, it's two Gators blocking each other. You're supposed to block the other team. So Gator-like.
we can subtract these fractions. So the way that we subtract fractions is by keeping the same number on the bottom, our denominator stays the same, and we subtract what's on the top. So 20 minus 5 gives us 15. So 15 over 4 is equal to 3x over 4. Well, now I'm getting close. Remember, my ultimate goal is to get this x by itself. So what's keeping x from being by itself? Well, first off, I see that it's being divided by 4. Well, how do I get rid of the dividing by 4? I do the inverse. I'm going to multiply. So I'm going to multiply by 4. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I also have to multiply by 4 over here. Well, what do I get? These 4's are going to cross out, right? Because 4 divided by 4 is just 1. Those cross out. So I'm left with 3x on the left. What do I see over here? These 4's are going to cancel out because 4 divided by 4 is 1. And I'm left with 15. Am I done yet? No, I still need to get x by itself. What's keeping x from being by itself? It's being multiplied by 3 right here. 3x is the same thing as saying 3 times x. So, how do I get rid of a multiplying by 3? I divide by 3. Whatever I do to one side of the equation, I've got to do to the other. So, I'm going to divide both sides by 3. Well, 3 divided by 3 is 1, so that cancels out. We're just left with x. 15 divided by 3, what's 15 divided by 3? 5. So I've solved for my equation, and I get that x is equal to 5.